the first part of the show, fam, this is kind of, at one point we covered the Epstein saga very closely. I had known friends of friends that were actually, what do you call them, corrections officers at the facilities where Jeffrey Epstein was supposedly staying before he was checking in and out. I lived in South Florida. I hung out there for quite some time. There was the West Palm Beach mansion over there, as well as a lot of taking off from this area, kind of going to Epstein Island. So, we'd known about him, we'd heard about him, and whatnot. So it was a little bit personal to me. Covering this case, though, I started getting very bad nightmares, have a hard time sleeping. But more than anything, I realized very shortly out of the gate that this day was coming, meaning that this trial right here was coming. I thought it would be the Jeffrey Epstein trial, but it turned out, he hung himself. And now it's all being played through Ghislaine Maxwell. But I put this up here to give a little example of what I think is going on, because it really does hurt inside, because no matter what, and I put a lot of this on the public, a lot of this not just on the leftist progressives that we go on that would just go crazy over the Kyle Rittenhouse case, but won't pay attention to this case. And this case is far more important. But I put down what this is all about. The mainstream media and the ruling class have been performing one of their greatest pieces to date. It's the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. And this Fugazi clown show is being performed solely for the purpose of duping the people. It's being sold as an American justice system holding the two most evil pedophiles of our time accountable for their heinous acts on underage girls. But is this what the Epstein scandal is really about? Hell no. If you've been following Epstein for the past years, you know that his ties and connections are more than just a few bad apples with disgusting habits. It's about the biggest names throughout our society of what can only be a global ring of ruling elites who used our children as currency, fam. And I just want to get your thoughts on that, because as we're seeing this played out, this case is not really what it's all about, right? That's why I titled this section "What Not to Expect from the Ghislaine Maxwell Trial," because we're not going to get what we really should get as a society.
Well, first of all, you sound like a right-winger conspiracy theorist, Pasta. But Jesus. It turns out those people are right in terms of this being a huge case in regard to child sex trafficking. For me, it's a little bit more than that. It's about the idea that there are a group of people that are extremely powerful that not so much sit around the same exact table at the same exact time conspiring against the working class, but actually run in the same circles naturally. And it's a state of natural development. The 1%, they run in the same circles. And so they have this whole, these interests that they hold, and they know that there's too many people that are in the way of that. And so what they're doing is they help each other out. They help each other cover each other's bullshit and their crimes. And there is a two-tiered system in society where if you're wealthy and if you're powerful, because power is oftentimes more vital to these people than money. And if you're powerful enough, you can create money, you can create a person, you can create an identity, and you can pretty much be surpassing the law. The law does not apply to the poor or the working class or the 99% in the same way that it applies to people like Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, and all of the people that they have been named in terms of Clinton, Trump, Prince Andrew, and you talk about several celebrities, and just because somebody's in the picture with them doesn't necessarily mean that they knew who he was, that they were that involved or anything like that. But in terms of the logs and everything we've learned thus far, that holds a little bit more weight. And you're right. I don't think we're going to see justice come to serve, because the people holding out the justice show are also involved in this. So it's kind of like, the bank robbers holding a trial for a fellow bank robber. It's like the police policing themselves. It just doesn't work. So
yeah, you hit it on the nose. Well, I got two questions over here, fam. And the first one was, why is this trial so important? And more importantly, why isn't the trial getting 1/12 the attention as the Rittenhouse case? I just want to say really quick, and I'll ask you the second part of that question. You can jump off. But the reason why this case is so important, remember at one point I was watching and playing a clip for the Duran, and I think it was one of the hosts said, this is like one of the most important cases ever. This is like the window of humanity, what we're going through, who's ruling us, what's happening. This shows who the elites and the ruling class really is. And I feel that way, and equally. I mean, do I think it's the most important case of our time? No, but it should be up there because of the connections that Jeffrey Epstein had, mainly with people like Bill Gates and the transhumanism and the money and the fact that we've never really even seen what's going on inside the New Mexico Zorro Ranch. And we now have confirmation from testimonies from people saying that the Clintons used to hang out there, whatnot, that even the New York Times posted that transhumanism was being practiced there. I mean, this really goes all the way to the top within our society. And that's why I think it's so important. But furthermore, fam, why isn't this case getting 1/12 the attention that the Rittenhouse case got?
Well, yeah, I mean, this trial is extremely, I mean, that it right there, Bill Gates. I mean, I've been looking a lot more into Bill Gates and the fact that he is tied to so many of just the fourth industrial revolution, everything about, what's going on with Pfizer and the vaccine and all of that. Bill Gates has his claws in them. So it's the elites, the 1%, the very powerful people in our society. That's why this is so important, because those facets attach themselves to everything else. And the reason this isn't having the same type of weight, it's because, number one, it's not being talked about by mainstream media, and they drive the propaganda narrative. In the Rittenhouse case, constantly it was pushed in front of us because it is extremely useful to the predator class for division. You can use the whole, this is a race war happening right now. This is why Rittenhouse was a white supremacist. He represents white supremacy when he killed white people. So that doesn't add up. Obviously, he was he took the side of the police, which is true. But it's this whole idea that you have the easily divisive narrative there to exploit. They can't do that in this case because why? Because they kind of focused on the people who have made this case a child sex trafficking case being more on the right or trying to frame it like it's only the Clintons. When in reality, we know that Trump and Clinton were both named and likely involved in some form or another. There are people on the left and the right, or liberal and Republican, that are involved. There's people from the UK. There's people from all over the world governments. So this is not a partisan issue. But in the media, depending on who's covering it, whether it's Fox or MSNBC, it's covered as a partisan issue. So it's just kind of like, oh, this case is a little bit too conspiratorial for so many to cover. And that's why I don't think it's getting the attention, because they can't really exploit it. Because if they were to tell the truth about this whole case, everybody would go under, and they can't allow that.
I have to agree with you that it is about the mainstream media kind of pushing their narrative, whatnot. Obviously, the mainstream media is tied to all these powerful ruling class elites of sorts, what we like to call the predator class. And this is a great example of why we call them the predator class, what they did to these children at the time. But I also have to say, fam, I think there is something within the progressives' DNA that lacks nuance, you know what I'm saying, that they have that, oh my God, emotional left kind of mentality, that so many things on the surface kind of make them concentrate in those areas rather than go down the rabbit holes and understand what's going on with these situations, how the powerful and elite were so tied to Jeffrey Epstein via Ghislaine Maxwell, who is now on trial there. So I think there is something with the progressive DNA that they have to get past. We talk about it all the time, the lack of understanding foreign policy and understanding how that our foreign policy is probably one of the most racist policies that America, goes through with. What we do to Latin America is disgusting. What we do in the Middle East is disgusting. And these are people of color that are getting bombed in their own land. The second part of the question is, and also too, I want to piggyback to Trump when we get a second, because there have been some comments that people have said that, like, well, you guys just throw Trump out there without any really connections, whatnot. It's not fair to do so. He's in a different situation than Bill Clinton. And like you just said before, just because they're in the picture doesn't mean they're not necessarily guilty. But if Donald Trump were to say, hey, listen, I have nothing to hide, I will gladly step up and testify if I'm called upon. And he did testify, or even just said that what would that mean towards the other people who are kind of hiding, like the Clintons and like Bill Gates and whatnot? I mean, there is a lot of evidence to suggest that Donald Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein, but not a lot of solid evidence tying him to the pedophilia or being on the island differently than Bill Clinton was. Do you have any thoughts on that particular situation when it comes to Donald Trump?
I mean, Donald Trump has accusations of, I don't know what that noise is, but it's striking, of like 13-year-old accusing him of harassment and rape. I mean, he has other accusations. I just wouldn't necessarily agree with you and say that there's not enough. I just say like, it's not as strong as what has been laid upon for Clinton. And I don't want to focus on that either, because I think at the end of the day, we're not really going to know, like I said, because the powerful people are going to protect the powerful, and Donald Trump is a powerful person. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I think focusing on that kind of loses point of the fact that that these people in general who have money and have power are going to get away with it, period.
Yeah. If there were real justice, how would the prosecutors how would they approach the trial, and who should be called on the witness stand? As we said, I think we made it clear, and we're going to play the little clip right now for Chris Hedges talking about all the people who will never ever go, spend one day on the witness stand. But my personal opinion is that's how the case should be handled. It should be going into, okay, now we have a probable cause to call all these people on the stand, from Wex Lexner to Bill Richardson to Bill Clinton to Donald Trump to Bill Gates, to everybody involved. And obviously, we're not going to see that. You know what I'm saying? Do you have any other thoughts on that real quick before we play the Mr.
No,
Matthews? Okay. Yeah.
No, let's just go ahead and play.
Let's get into it. Let's play this clip over here. Chris Hedges, man. Did he light it up? This was filmed by John F. O'Donnell. What's up, John? Great clip over here. Take a look at this, fam. He just starts blasting people.
Obstacles that society has placed before them in their pursuit of justice. The trial of Ghislaine Maxwell will not hold to account the powerful and wealthy men who are complicit in these assaults. Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, hedge fund billionaire Glenn Dubin, former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, former Secretary of the Treasury, and former President of Harvard, Larry Summers, Steven Pinker, Prince Andrew, Alan Dershowitz, Les Wexner, the billionaire CEO of Victoria's Secret and Limited Stores, J.P. Morgan banker Jess Staley, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, real estate mogul Mort Zuckerman, former Maine Senator George Mitchell, Harvey Weinstein, and many others.
He just named them all, fam. All these people, they have a right to put them on the stand and question them. They were all involved. There were witnesses. There's accusations. There's connections left and right. This is what this particular trial should be about, but it's not. And I mean, he named them all, fam, all of them. Any thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. They should all be named. They should all be held accountable. Those are all extremely powerful people, likely not to happen.
Yeah, not one of them of those people are going to take the stands. However, fam, we got some news from the Daily Mail. We going to get the butler is going to take the stand over here. Epstein's housekeeper testified that he cleaned up large dildos and vibrators after massages and found porn tapes and black leather costume in Ghislaine Maxwell's bathroom. So that's what they're going to make this shit about, fam. You know what I'm saying? They're going to try to demonize and say it's just about these two people rather than go into the crux of what's going on. And I think that's why those people were going crazy as Mr. Hedges was reading off those names, because there's some of us out there who understand what this is about and how they're going to be duping the public. And you can't count on the mainstream media to say anything or ask any tough questions. I mean, the reporting on this is so little compared to what they did in the Rittenhouse case. Jeffrey Epstein's housekeeper, Juan Alessi, took the stand Thursday in day 4 of the Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking trial. If you just go down to a couple things, he talks about their relationship in 1991, that it became less cordial and more professional. From the day she came to the house, she right away took over, meaning Ghislaine Maxwell. She mentioned she was going to be the lady of the house, he said. Alessi said he found a large dildo and vibrators while cleaning up after the late financier's massages. Alessi said he saw pornographic tapes and black leather costumes and a basket in Ghislaine Maxwell's bathroom. So, fam, they're still going to concentrate on this shit. They're going to try to make ties with everybody involved there. They're going to go after the little people, right? So they can dupe the public into thinking that this what this case is about, which is an isolated case with some bad apples and not a giant global sex ring involving the most dangerous people on the planet. The next part, did you have anything to say on that or no?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so there's been one gentleman out there who's been doing some great coverage out there. It's one Addy Ads. I just want to play two clips. He's been really getting his butt out there. You know, boots on the ground, fam. We know what it's like. We really appreciate that. But this is the first testimony. I just want to pay attention to the two testimonies, the 2 days of testimony when it comes to Mr. Alessi, because then you'll see exactly what the prosecution is doing. The prosecution isn't doing what, and I keep repeating this, they're not doing what they should be doing. They're doing, this whole little clown show. So here is one Addy Ads talking about the first testimony of Mr. Alessi, the house manager for Epstein from 1990 to 2002.
What's up, folks? Addy Ads here, right outside the District Courthouse, Southern District, New York, New York City, New York. And second half of the day saw a new witness, Mr. Alessi, house manager and driver for Jeffrey Epstein from 1990 to 2002. And recall that Epstein was first arrested about 5 or 6 years after that and charged. So he got out long before Epstein officially got in trouble for these operations. And he testified to many things today, meaning Jane, circa 1994, seeing Jane get on a plane with Epstein, with Maxwell, testified to seeing Virginia Roberts, appearing about 14 or 15 years old at the time, on one of these trips that Ghislaine Maxwell would go on, hunting for nubiles or looking for nubiles or young ladies who just had their menarche, girls who just had their menarche, right? And pretty repulsive stuff there, but testified to names like Emmy Taylor and Gwendolyn Beck as girls being also at the house of Epstein, and secretaries, quote unquote, such as Fiona and Kimberly only identified by their first name. But again, Mr. Alessi was told to stop driving once Ghislaine Maxwell saw this attractive-looking young blonde lady who turned out to be, in fact, Virginia Roberts, and they showed pictures, exhibits of Miss Roberts' face to verify that in fact, was the same person that Mr. Alessi saw. And as well, 3 times a day, the massages that Epstein would get, morning, afternoon, and night massages coming after their movie sessions that they would often have, and with a different person every single time. And interesting part here, because during this examination from the prosecution, they asked about is Sarah Kellen's name in the book, but Judge Nathan, for some reason, sustained an objection to that. It went into sidebar, and then nothing. They kind of seem to change the subjects after that. So see if Sarah Kellen's name comes up again, hoping that it does. But more to come soon. Stay frosty, and we'll see everybody.
Fam, there are some positive things about these testimonies and some things that are going on here that I want to highlight. It is putting the girls in the positions and the places they were in, so that's kind of confirming that they can't weasel their way out of, including Virginia Roberts, whatnot. Even kind of the energy of, oh, stop the car, let me run out and go get this girl so I can get her to groom for the multiple massages that Jeffrey Epstein needs. I think that is a positive thing. But then all of a sudden the next day, you'll see the defense kind of like, they'll pivot a little bit more with the prosecution over here to what they're really trying to do. Take a look at this next clip, because the next clip real quick just talks about the next day Mr. Alessi was on the stand. So check it out.
What's up, folks? Addy Ads here outside the Southern District of New York Courthouse here in New York City, New York, for day 5 of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. And this morning, we saw Juan Alessi on the stand. Once again, house manager, chauffeur for Jeffrey Epstein. And the defense were questioning Mr. Alessi pretty aggressively. He was getting visibly annoyed, even crossing his arms at one point. And several questions about who actually did the recruiting for the masseuse appointments and for the massages. He denied going to the spas to recruit massage therapists, saying we went to the most exclusive spas and country clubs, denied getting referrals from other people for massage therapists, denied at all recruiting masseuses, answering never. It seems they are trying to shift the blame to Alessi, and the rats maybe are eating each other, perhaps. He said, I never made a call suggesting to therapists to come to the house. I never had the authority to call myself or get an appointment. That was my job, sir. And that was something he pointed out too. He was calling it a mandate and not a secret. For example, that he was ordered by Epstein to take down pictures of Maxwell, often nude pictures, from the house when men would come over to the house, saying he was not in some sort of secret agreement with Epstein, simply doing what he was told. As I mentioned, he seemed to be getting visibly peeved and seemed very relieved when he was off the stand at the end of the session. And towards the end of the session, the defense asked him outright, that doesn't make you guilty of sex trafficking, does it, sir? Objection came from the prosecution, as one would expect, and that was sustained by Judge Nathan. That question did get a visible, a phonic reaction from people in the courtroom. Furthermore, very relevant, he denied ever hearing anybody complain to him, saying, no, they never did, but I wish they would have, because I would have done something. And the second half saw Gregory Parkinson, retired police officer, simply describing the house at 358 El Brio Way. Stay frosty, more updates to come. Eddie adds.
Okay. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to find more patsies, right? That's exactly what's going on in this dog and pony show right now. They're trying to shift the blame to Epstein's inner circle, right? It's keep away the names from all the big guys. Keep it off of Trump, keep it off of Gates, keep it off of Clinton, Dubin, all that right now. Let's find more patsies right here. So therefore, the public will digest this shit and will think this is, once again, just bad apples doing bad apple things, fam. Any thoughts on that?
No, it's just makes sense, right? They're not going to really let this get to the big honchos. They're not. So this is exactly where I think we thought they would go.
It's sad too, as well. It really is sad seeing this trial go like this, seeing where they're concentrating on what they're trying to doing and the people who will not be held accountable. So just really quickly to go over who has testified so far. 4 of the alleged victims are expected to testify, as are their relatives and Epstein's former employees, along with expert witnesses. The first day of the trial saw Epstein's longtime pilot, Larry Vysotsky, take the stand, describing the pedophile financier's so-called Lolita Express flights. Once again, the positive thing, putting the people in the places and on the flights when they were involved, but not enough to say that, he saw any bad activity or serious activity that can really open it up to the public. While Vysotsky, said he never saw any sexual activity, like we said, he testified that U.S. former President Bill Clinton, British Royal Prince Andrew, and Donald Trump, among others, flew on Epstein's private planes. The prosecutors have said that the abuse occurred at a number of Epstein's homes, including the estate in Palm Beach, Florida, his posh Manhattan townhouse, a ranch in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a Paris apartment, and a luxury estate in the Virgin Islands. During this testimony, Vysotsky said it was not unusual for Maxwell to sit with him in the cockpit. He also recalled flying Virginia Roberts, putting her there as well, which is a good thing, who was accused both Epstein and Prince Andrew of abuse. The first of 4 accusers identified only by pseudonym. How many out, fam? Pseudonym?
You said it right. Yeah.
Yeah. Jane provided a graphic testimony about being forced to have sex with Epstein when she was 14, 15, and 16. She noted that Maxwell and others were involved at times, adding Maxwell would instruct her on how Epstein liked to be massaged. Jane said she traveled with Maxwell and Epstein about 10 times between Florida, Manhattan, and New Mexico. Epstein's driver and butler, Juan Alessi, has also testified to Maxwell's instructing him to bring both Jane and Roberts to Epstein's Palm Beach mansion. So that's so far what we have who's testified. And, you know, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse over here because it's just sad what this is about. Who's also expected to testify? You know, I'm sure we'd like to see some of those names that Chris Hedges mentioned on the list. None of them are on the list, fam. Surprise, surprise. Besides Jane's, 3 other alleged underage victims are expected to take the stand during the trial, while 2 will do so under the anonymity, going by pseudonym names. Kate and Carolyn. Accuser Annie Farmer has already publicly identified herself and said Epstein abused her at his New Mexico ranch in 1996. That's how long this shit has been going on for, if not longer. According to the incident against Maxwell, she is alleged to have encouraged Farmer, known as a minor victim too, to give Epstein foot rubs and massages. She was the groomer. Everybody knows this. There are all a number of expert witnesses who could prove to Keyes Maxwell's defense, namely that accusers have memories that are untrustworthy, uncorroborated, and unreliable. So that's what's going to happen again. They're going to try to say that these people's testimonies have changed over the years. Their statements have changed. They're unreliable. I'm sure they'll go. A lot of times, fam, Epstein would target disturbed women. You know what I'm saying? Women from broken homes, poor women, whatnot, that he could take advantage of. Well, they're going to use all that information in their past against these victims to try to thwart their testimony to get Maxwell a free pass. I mean, the mainstream media has even played the whole situation as like, this is a classic case of Adam and Eve. Look at the way they blame Eve for what Adam did. Why are they doing this to women? This is common in they brought identity politics into it as well, fam, is what I'm trying to say. They're using every trick in the book to kind of try to mislead the public. The defense team reportedly intends to call Elizabeth Loftus to the stand. Loftus is a psychological professor at the University of California, Irvine, who argues that people can be manipulated into having false memories. She's going to say that they were manipulated to say these things. Loftus has testified in several high-profile trials, including those of the O.J. Simpson and Harvey Weinstein. Meanwhile, the prosecution has already fielded its expert witnesses, psychologist Lisa Rocio, who told the jury about delayed discourse to show how underage sexual abuse victims who have been groomed may not immediately recognize their experience as abuse and sometimes do not come forward until years later. Fam, do you have anything to say about that? Because I remember we talked about this one time, because there was a lot of people who do accuse women, say, well, why didn't they say anything when it happened? Do you have anything to say about that, about why it might take sometimes the abuse a little while to come to fruition and explain what happened to them?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you don't know that it was that at that time. So once it starts hitting, then you're like, okay, well, I was not cognizant enough. I was too young. I was unaware that this was what it was. And so then that's when they come forward. This happens all the time. Now, what also is true, though, which is why it's probably allowed in court, is the false memories thing. You can be, people have the natural tendency to fill in gaps of things they don't remember. So that is actually something that is true, which is why they're probably using it. But in this case, there's just too many witnesses, too many girls. So it's probably not going to hold up.
Yeah. Too much smoke to hide the fire. Just finishing up this section, I want to talk about what a dog and pony show this is, what a clown act this is that one of the main prosecutors happens to be Maureen Ryan Comey, literally FBI agent Comey's daughter. Like, it's like her job is to go after everybody who's not part of my friends, keep away from the Clintons and I mean, this is the ridiculousness of this whole situation. She was also involved in the loft video at Jeffrey Epstein's first suicide attempt. Remember when she had to come and explain this shit? It's like, oh, we don't have the recording. We kind of lost it. We got the wrong one and the wrong part of the cell, whatnot. She's one of the main prosecutors in this situation. And I don't know if you can really buy that. Here's a little report from the Herald. It says, federal prosecutors have claimed that the surveillance video taken from the outside of Jeffrey Epstein's jail cell on the day of his first apparent suicide attempt has been permanently deleted. The Herald gathered that the federal prosecutors made this claim on Thursday in a court filing. Epstein, the disgraced financier who was facing federal sex trafficking charges, was found semi-conscious in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, or MCC, in New York around 1:27 a.m. on July 23rd. The prosecutor said that the video is now gone because MCC officials mistakenly saved footage from a different floor of the federal detention facility. So not only is she bad at her job and, whatnot, she also happens to be one of the daughter of an FBI agent that is very, very close to the Clinton clan, James Comey. It's laughable. But to finish that off, fam, who's the judge? Who is Allison Nathan, Ghislaine Maxwell trial judge? Okay, this is Judge Allison Nathan. And just a little thing about this, a graduate of Cornell Law School, she was appointed in 2011 to the district court by then President Barack Obama. Prior to that, she served an associate White House counsel and special assistant to Obama, and later a special counsel to New York State's Solicitor General. So I get it. If she was appointed by Obama, maybe it wouldn't be so bad, but she was a special assistant to Obama. And this is the, what I'm saying? Obama was never mentioned on the plane or whatnot and everything, but this is the Obama clan and his friends over here. I mean, every time you just look at this case, you can say, this is friggin' ridiculous. How are people buying this shit? And they don't even understand the importance of this case, fam. This is what made me sad. This is why I didn't want to cover this stuff so much, and I almost stopped, because I know no one would be held accountable, and it would just be nothing more than a clown show when the time came, and now the time is here.
Yeah. I mean, the Comey situation, it's just laughable. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, she's actually, she's really good at her job. She's doing exactly what she was told to do. You don't just accidentally erase a video or forget or film something over it. That just doesn't happen at that level, at that high profile of a case. We know this. And then, of course, the judge is in place. We're not going to see the Clintons brought up. We're not going to see, any high public official of the Liberal Party brought up. They're just going to try to say, this is just Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein, and that's all we're going to do. That's all we can prove. They need fall guys. They need people to shut this case down. And they're trying to make it like this thing where, see, we're giving you everything you want. We're being transparent. But really, they have all the pieces in place to really have the outcome that they would like. So, yeah.
It's a sad situation, fam. I really think, though, the independent media should be covering this too as well. I'd like to see somebody get down there other than Natty ads. You know what I'm saying?
It's more angering to me than sad. I'm not really sad as much as I am like, it's angering, but it's also like, what do you expect? Do you expect anything better from the system we have?
Oh, no, there's a different set of rules for those up top, fam. Like you said, all these people, all of them should be called, and like I said before, like we kind of talked about earlier too, as well. Somebody even said, like, the whole Trump thing. Well, tell him to go admit that he'll be willing to take the stand. I'd like to see I'd like to see Les Wexner say that shit, or Bill Gates and everything. You know what I'm saying? They won't. They'll never, ever fucking be called to justice, especially the connections with Bill Gates, the fact that he got money from Epstein, and the transhumanism. This is like really dark, crazy stuff that really relates to what we're going through right now, what we're going to talk about in these next couple of sections over here. Fam, there are ties within this situation that are tied directly to these next 2-3 sections we're going to talk about. I mean, there are actual ties. And it won't be talked about. It'll just be swept out under the rug. They'll be like, okay, the Jeffrey Epstein situation is finished. And the left really are just blind to it in America. The American left is blind to it. It is sad. It is angering. I get you, fam. But that's all we got on the Ghislaine Maxwell trial so far. I guess we'll pay attention and see what's going to come of it. But don't expect anything, ladies and gentlemen. This is all for show.